Welcome back, friend. Now we are going to pop over to the other side of the body graph. So I want to leave the 2145 until we get through the other four channels of the ego center, or the ego circuitry. All four of the ego energies from the 54, 32, 44, 26, here, the 1949, up to the 37, then to the 40. Those are all projected energies. So inside tribal support is deep, deep, deep a recognition. So here in the channel of synthesis, a design of being sensitive. This is a cross-special channel between humans and mammals. We control mammals in this particular channel for the benefit of our diet. And this is also where the mutation is happening as we move into the 2027 Global Orchestrated Directory. The 1949 to the 3740 provides the socialism aspect of design. So on the other side, we saw capitalism. How are we going to produce, make money on the material plane? On this side, it is about the socialist aspect of the tribe. So how do we take care of our own? How do we, have the correct resources, the correct principles, the correct bargains? That's on this side. Now, isn't it interesting how the defense circuit, we have the 59-6 on, the emotional side of the body graph and the 27-50 on the other side, but yet the ego circuit's almost twisted around. Does that make sense to you? So, really, capitalism, how come capitalism isn't on the same side as the procreation? And how come socialism, is not on the same side as the nurturing? Well, again, how I see this body graph, there's always the helix of the DNA, the spiral that's happening. So within this stream is the sensitivity that is rooted in the reaction to touch and the need for touch. The tribe has to have physical interaction. And over in this particular channel of synthesis, it is so important. The sensitivity to touch. Really, when we are able to touch each other, there is a ginormous amount of information that is passed between two people, a man, or a human and an animal. That touch is so interesting to watch. This is the basic need to bond, and this is the real glue of the human family bond. As the beginning of the mystical way, this is also where we find ceremonies that the tribe celebrates together. Now, again, when I'm recording this is in our interesting time of 2020. That's one of the biggest things that has been impacted, that I have recognized, is graduation ceremonies, wedding ceremonies. With this whole social distancing, we can't come together as a tribe. We cannot be in ceremonies. Church services have also been stopped. So it's interesting to see how as the shift is getting closer to 2027 and the adjustment to the histidine codon that sits in the 49 and the 55, as that takes place, do you see how ceremonies are breaking down? It's so fun to watch how these mechanics actually work out. So if you come in with this channel, there are certain things that become fundamental. So the retention and protection of resources, maintaining the sanctity of your territory and the clarity that you can have in your belief system. Now, if this whole channel is present, you're an emotional authority. Has to come to clarity. So this is our social communion with each other, our basic need for shelter, food, protection, and security. The sexuality, this is the channel of the bride and the groom as the archetype. So you can have the support of these basic resources if you love, obey, and honor me. This is the basic marriage contract, the basic, marriage vows, the contract vows. This is, I will provide the food, the shelter, and the water if you love, obey, and honor me. Marriage is about money. How much energy each party puts in. Synthesizing needs and establishing the rules, creating bargains to live by so everybody is supportive. So in the 19, the bride, this is wanting to be needed. This is focusing on neediness for food, shelter, God, resources. The 49 is the groom, the principles of the tribe. This is where the basic need for touch is on the solar plex side. I'm not sure what else I was going to put in there. This is not sure. So this is to be recognized for one's capacity to work within the realm of family. Of course, this is the mirror. The 5432 that we spoke about earlier is to be recognized in the job, right? They're to be recognized. Here's somebody that's ambitious. Here's somebody that's talented. Let's invest in them. Well, on this side, it's about the family. And is the resources, are the correct principles going to be available if I put my energy in to this other person, into this being, into this marriage contract? Here it is to be recognized for building the basis of marriage and bonding. The 19 is closing the quarter of mutation. Closing the quarter of mutation. And the 49 is the second step of the consciousness quarter. Now, there's nothing in bonding here. So really, what this is saying is that to be sensitive is to totally just surrender to the mutative energy and the consciousness field, to allow us to know what is the correct bond. What is the correct, ceremony for us? What's the correct God for us? What is the need that we have for food and shelter and water? This is about awareness. So the channel of synthesis, a design of being sensitive. When recognized, the 1949 is always ready to work on the relationship. And it will work really hard. So the 3740 is, this family is their enterprise. Like the 4426 is the enterprise of the 5432. So the 4426 really is the sales and marketing. Well, that's the enterprise of the talent. Here, the enterprise of the family is those that are ready to invest and work on the relationship. So as this is an emotional projector channel, these people will work until burnt out on their family. As the wave is moving, be sure you enter into family bonds and contracts correctly. A family is a job. Hence the example that I gave in the 4426 when we talked about the breadwinner and the housewife. Family is a job. We cannot disregard those that choose to, stay at home and take care of the children, take care of the household. It's not to be looked at as unequal. Because if we don't have family and we don't have that that real focus on the family energy, the family's falling apart. It's pretty hard for the breadwinner to go to work and be productive. But when the both aspects are working correctly, then there can be complete material success. And the thing that glues the family is the inner work done on the relationship itself. If you enter into a relationship correctly, you don't need a complex contract. The recognition alone that you have the capacity to work at a relationship is not enough. You must ride out your wave and accept or decline based on the correctness of your inner authority and the emotional clarity. We're talking about that because this provides, that inner authority of the solar plex, that emotional intelligence that we need to get to in order to know, is this the right relationship? If I'm going to put my investment here, if I'm going to, spend my time and energy here to get the enterprise of a family, is it worth it? And that only comes to you through emotional clarity. So as the wave shifts, it can be debilitating or destabilizing, So if you jump into a relationship because someone's attracted to you and recognizes you will put in the work, you will burn out trying to hold it together. Has to be correct. Never be spontaneous. If you have emotional authority, never be spontaneous. So watch these people in your life, or if this is you, do not be spontaneous. There is a time and a place for you to enter in and use your energy on a relationship. So the 1949 is seen as the courtship prior to the marriage contract of the 3740. This is where the principles are established, which gave two people time to consider the match. The 1949 is always seeking some kind of emotional family relationship. Synthesis is, in a sense, a summary of the correct strategy of entering into any bond involving cohabitation or marriage. You have to be recognized and invited into that relationship. And then you have to allow time and space for a natural courtship to unfold in order that you can be emotionally clear before you make a commitment. So the 19 is the gate of wanting. This is approach. The pressure down here, the pressure to need the right principles in life, which are found in the 49. So what the 19 does is it flirts to find out who has the right principles for them. The 49 establishes those correct principles. So this is the root pressure for the need for the glue in the tribe. That glue is food, shelter, sex, family, and God. So the 19 makes sure it fuels having the resources necessary to maintain the mundane concerns. Unlike the 39 that provides the fuel for the mutative stages of evolution, or the 41 that provides the fuel for the sequences of the evolution. Here it is the mundane concerns. The 19, the fuel that it's going to be used on are the base necessities. So the mundane concerns are how many sheep are in the field, how much corn is growing, but it is also the very start of the spiritual way. The mystical way. So remember, the 19 is closing off the quarter of mutation, which leads to the 13 that is the next incarnation and consciousness. So this is the gate of animism, where we worship the spirit of animal and we benefit by sacrificing them for our food in the 49. Always a pressure to have resources that the tribe needs. There's always a pressure for food, shelter, water, education, and the opportunities relative to their skills and potentials. There is an interrelatedness and a peaceful world. So when the tribe knows that it's summer and everybody is to be hunting and fishing and gathering and making the hides into winter clothing, there's this relatedness. When there's enough to feed everybody for the long haul of the winter, this interrelatedness and this peaceful world will come out. Resources must be there or everything falls apart. We see this all the time where, in a household, there might not be enough money to pay the bills, and what happens? There's constant fighting. Well, you bought this or you bought that. I'm not saying that money makes us happy, but resources allow us to have a sense of security. In the sexuality aspect, this is the gate of needing sexual resources, a design of flirtation. So the 19 is flirtatious. This is not the same as the abstract 4130 process that has a fantasy that it wants to act out sexually. This is the tribe. It is looking for a bargain. Always. This 19 is flirting to, are you the right one on the other side? Are you the one that I can have a contract with so that, the resources and all the contracts and bonds that we need are going to be there. So in the 19th gate, we get the marriage vow. This is where we love, obey, honor. This is really where we get that legal bond. This is where the negotiation takes place sexually. I'm going to give you blah, blah, blah. And you need to provide me with everything I need. Food, shelter, and the offspring will be taken care of. So the flirtation here is not to just have sex. This is to see if there's actually a future in it. Looking to see if there can be a marriage bond. This is a pressure. The 19 is a pressure, and it is designed to get the attention of the 49. That's why it's flirty. So when we walk through the 19th gate, so when we look at the first line, let's grab the gold line here. So that is all things are interrelated, is apparent and manifested through the action of approach. So this is the right angle cross of the 4 ways. So approaching with a flirtatious manner as you experience all that life has to offer. The juxtaposition of need, testing the principles of others to have a sense of who and what to use the resources on. And then the left angle cross of refinement, refining and attuning to correct principles. So the interdependence, the successful approach that does not lose its individual character in acceptance, the pressure of wanting without losing one's identity when being accepted by others. The tendency, once an approach is accepted, to get stuck in continued reflection at the expense of continued development. The pressure for acceptance which fears eventual rejection. So this isn't about, codependency or being, fully dependent on one person. This is an interdependence. Remember, we're talking about support. So it must go both ways. Each person brings their own individual strengths and weaknesses to the marriage. And then there's an interdependence there. Again, one person goes out of the home and makes, produces money at a job. One person stays at home and nourishes that. And there's an interdependence. One is not less or more than the other. So then the service, the dedication of personal resources as a result of external contact. So dedication and service to the highest values, the energy to want to be of service. protracted indecision, but given the nature of this position, eventual compliance. The need to be wanted that will eventually turn its energy to service. So what are we doing? The tribe really does want us to support one another and to be of service to one another. And of course, the second line, they got this little beam of energy coming out that says, you know what, I'm here. I'm here to be of service. Now, it's not about walking over top of these people and, oh, they're going to do all the work in the family. No, it's about understanding that there has to be support both ways. So the dedication here in the third line, receptivity to approach, can only be maintained through vigilance. The natural ease with which communion is maintained, sensitivity and ease fueled by acceptance by others. A tendency to moodiness that may lead to carelessness, the need to be wanted hampered by oversensitivity. So, dedication, that's what the tribe really wants from us. The tribe wants us to be dedicated to our family, dedicated to the tribal energy. It's as the tribe is always, always, always asking for loyalty. And the 19th gate, what's really important for the 19th gate is to have a full fridge. Dedicating that fuel to making sure that there are resources. But knowing that the support has to go both ways, the service to the tribe has to go both ways, and then you can be dedicated. You can utilize the energy to put it towards the correct resources. So in the 19.4, the team player, the individual approach which attracts and accepts cooperation. The power and energy for outward activity and the ability to accept others as long as they can keep up. A driving force that can benefit the whole group. The energy to seek out and exalt in the company of others. Attractive and cooperative, but a tendency to dissatisfaction with the contribution of others. A sensitivity energized by the limitation of others. So it is a team aspect. And the 19 is it's bringing in the resource, has a fuel to create the resources. And then, when we go over to the 49 is the distributor of it. So here, the team player, there's a bunch of people that are out, collecting the resources. So here's just an example that just popped into my mind. Even though this isn't an individual aspect, I guess in a sense it is. I volunteer for the Rotary from time to time to collect food for the food bank. So being a team player to collect the resources. Then I get the resources and I hand it over to the Rotary Club. And the Rotary Club then distributes those resources based off of need. They have all the ins and outs of the community. None of that is my business. So then I am able to assist them with providing what is needed. They do the distribution. So in the 5th line, we have the sacrifice, the need to limit personal potential in order to achieve a larger goal. I don't know why I always put full every time it's supposed to be goal. Sorry about that. So the self-restraint fundamental to such a nature. Energy to keep one's sensitivities restrained. A tendency in sacrifice to condescend. So sacrifice can fuel a lack of sensitivity. So again, here, condescending those that need it, or restraining that and saying, it's really none of my business. There's a need. I'm tribal. I'm going to be of service. Here you go. Now, when we go to the 6, this is about the recluse. So the recluse, or the recluse, however you want to say that, the avoidance of contact in general, but not exclusively. The fool on the hill, the sage, that if you can find him, will talk to you. The energy which generally fuels avoidance. So the sulking child, the self-imposed exile that will only and when it attracts appropriate and soothing reaction. Oversensitivity to rejection that fuels avoidance. So when we are looking from the 19 to the 49 is about rejection. It either rejects or accepts the flirtation of the 19. So it's going to say, yep, this is the right person to, bond with, and let's distribute the resources correctly. It'll either reject or accept. So, the 6th line is never really a part of the hexagram. And the whole point of the 6th line is that it is looking at the entire circuitry. So it is not going to get involved in the tribe and have this interdependence unless it knows it can be dedicated. And those that are with it are also dedicated. So it's going to recluse so that it can know, is this all correct? Because this is a part of the cross of the 4 ways, which also includes the 33, which is the retreat. And then the 24, which is the return. And the 44, which is the coming to meet. So there's, 4 ways to meet the world. We approach it, we retreat from it, we come to meet it, and then we return. So the recluse, has that retreat energy within it. Is the tribe, are we on the right path? Or do we have the right bargains? Are we materially successful? Are we educating our people enough? Are we taking care of them? There's all of that built right into the ego circuitry and the tribal circuitry as well. So then when we move to the 49 and the gate of principles, this gate establishes the principles of resources. Who gets what and what do they get? It establishes what has to be obeyed, and it also, is looking for obedience. Its potential is the awareness of what is needed or not. However, this is operating in a wave, to the principle, and need operates in the highs and lows. So, here we have the 19 that's flirting, and the 49 that's going in their highs and lows. So in those highs and lows, they can be rejecting or accepting. Oh yeah, I'll accept your resources, or I'll reject your resources. I'll reject your sexual flirtatious energy, or I'll accept it. So all of our revolutions, all of our principles have been conditioned ignorantly by the nature of the wave. The awareness here is actually food discrimination. The 49 is designed to be discriminate food-wise. Now, again, this channel being so connected with mammals, what has been, brought forth is that a lot of times the 1949 is not able to consume mammals because they're so deeply connected to them. Or, the 49 here is also a butcher. So they are the ones in charge of, really honoring the sacrifice of those animals that we, consume. So this is about dictating from the 49th position and establishing the principles of what food should be available, when that food should be available, and how to get the food. It's all about organizing the resources of the tribe and allocating who gets what when. So now, right, it's interesting. Here we have this 19. It's the fuel, right? It's saying, I'm bringing the fuel so that we have the right resources. But now the right resources are presented, the fridge is full, and the 49 puts a lock on it. I'll tell you when you're going to eat. You need to obey my rules. So the 49th gate is an emotional gate. And as such, in its wave, it determines what kind of resources, do go where. So this is the butcher's gate, as these people have an interesting connection to the mammal and bring an honoring to the process of butchering that animal. Or they might just say, listen, we're going to be vegan. Or we're going to be vegetarian. Lots of times I see that in this particular channel is that they don't want to eat meat. Or it's completely opposite, where they grow it themselves on their own farm, they honor the animal, they take care of it, they butcher it in a way that is very humane, and then the person can consume it. So it can go completely both ways. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So in sexuality terms, this is the gate of sexual principles, a design of demanding obedience. Here we have the gate of marriage and divorce, the gate of being the sacrifice or the sacrificed. The 19 flirts. The 49 receives the pressure, and they create a bond. But the 49 says first, we can do this, but you must obey me and never flirt with anyone else again. So there's a change that is happening in the 49th gate. And this change is going to bring a change to our sexual principles. So with the 49 and the 55 both going through the adjustment, what Ra has spoken about a lot is that there isn't going to be as much procreation, as much, there isn't going to be as many people born. Because it no longer is required. The cross of planning is moving away, and we're moving into this individual aspect. So the desire of the 41 moves to the 35 in the throat. The desire is manifest as progress. The passion of the 39 moves to the 12 in the throat. Passion to manifest as caution. Now, the need of the 19 has absolutely no direct access to the throat. It has to move through the ego. This is the most tactile of the relationships. It is sticky. It is about control. So these couples, you'll notice, they're hand in hand. They actually bond physically. The communication is touch, and it's really not verbal. Touching each other to sense the emotions. And then the tribal relationships don't know really how to talk to one another. It is really that loyalty and support that is expressed as that love and that touch and that physical aspect. When we look at the 12, there's lots of romance there. There's music and poetry and, that kind of stuff. And when we look at the experiential way, it's, we're having experiences together. But in the 19, we're touching each other. We're bonding. We're holding hands. And then when you look at the 49 and we walk through the lines, the ideally, the transformation of forms based on the highest principles, not simply for power. Remember, the 49 is literally saying who gets what resources when. And there'll be a revolution. the resources aren't there, there's going to be a revolution. So the right angle cross, oh, hold on a minute. I just popped in the left angle crosshair. So ideally, the transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. So the right angle cross of explanation, explaining and structuring the distribution of resources, the juxtaposition of principles, contributing your principles for the correct distribution of resources for the betterment of the group, and the left angle cross of revolution, you are championing for those less fortunate. So when we walk through, the very base of this, the law of necessity, revolution has no support unless it is perceived as necessary. So we cannot, if there's no need, if the revolution isn't supported, if it doesn't seem like it's necessary, there's going to be no support from the tribe, and it loses its energy. So, you might be championing for sick children in Africa. All of a sudden, all this support comes in. We need this. This is necessary. Okay. And then the next person that, wants something, they create a product and then they do a crowdfunding, but there's no support for it because the product really isn't necessary. All of a sudden, there's no money. There's no funds being distributed there because it isn't necessary. So the understanding and application of this law to maximize expansion of support and thereby endure viability. The awareness that the potential of a principle is based on it being accepted as viable. It has to be viable. If the product or solution is not going to provide any kind of viability for the tribe, there will not be any support. If it's not necessary, there'll be no support. So the misuse of influence to insist that necessity can be created out of action. The helter-skelter syndrome that commits acts of disorder as proof that disorder exists. Oversensitivity to rejection that can turn a principle into a crusade. And then all of a sudden, that is rejected, and poof, we gotta band together. We gotta make this happen. Well, if it's rejected by the tribe, it's rejected. So the last resort, it'll need to be adjusted. That's the point here. That whatever's rejected, there's no necessity. The tribe's not going to purchase it. So whatever it is, it needs to have this new and improved flavor in order to then, be reintroduced to the tribe. Because remember, the tribe wants new and improved. They don't want the mundane. They want the best so that their tribe is the one that survives. So the last resort, the determination to exhaust every possible peaceful avenue for change, and then when satisfied that no other course is possible, to plan in detail before revolution is attempted. The potential to explore every possibility before rejecting. The overwhelming revolutionary urge that is impatient with the accommodation and negotiation. The tendency here is to coup d'etat that has little general support. Impatience with accommodation. So again, with the resources that are sitting there, if there is no need for them, if they're not necessary, they're going to be rejected. So this will, there'll be a last resort. We're going to exhaust every possible avenue for change. As remember, the tribe doesn't want change. So whatever it is has to be necessary. And then popular discontent. We see this all over the world. There'll all of a sudden be this real discontent for the governments or for whatever organization is, in charge. There'll be this popular discontent, which usually brings up these revolutions. That the resources are not being distributed correctly. All of a sudden, there is a popular discontent so that those resources are allocated correctly based off of necessity. And usually it takes, a large amount of pushing on the tribe in order for, this will be the last resort. If the popular discontent is there, there's going to be a revolution. How's the head of the tribe distributing the resources? And then a platform, a political and social agenda embodied in guarantees to human rights that ensures a just and valued replacement of the old order, a potential selectivity to the needs of society. Again, remember, we're looking at socialism here. This is how socialism all comes out. Problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution. If there's popular discontent, how do we change it? What do we need to do? What is the platform that needs to be brought in and new and improved and adjusted? And then organization. Practical provisions for the needs of others in revolutionary times, which ensures support and continues understanding. A potential sensitivity to the practical needs of others. So here, this is where I see this socialism aspect really pop out. And it really is when I provided the example of Rotary. Well, all of a sudden, we need a platform and we need an organization to distribute. And then once the necessity is there, and the popular discontent is there, and we've basically, we've come to the last resort of using whatever means possible, and the discontent is there, we adjust the platform, we create an organization so that whatever needs the tribes require, then whomever needs it gets it. That's why, this is, just my observation of it. I find that we have way too many not-for-profit organizations. And all of those organizations, if those, there is literally trillions of dollars flowing through all these organizations, and they're so disjointed. But they feel as though they are doing a social, they're having a social impact on our world. Well, our world looks, this is just through my eyes and my perception, thousands of times worse than it ever has before. And there's more money now in the year 2020 running through these organizations than ever before. But every time there's a popular discontent with a government, all of a sudden a new organization is created. Well, every one of those organizations have overhead. They have, they have to pay for marketing and they have to pay for somebody to solicit funds. So each one is taking a large chunk. Even though they're not for profit, there's lots of people working at these places getting a payroll. And so many of them do the exact same thing. So, for example, here I'm helping Rotary collect food. And yet the Salvation Army does that. Different organizations in town do that for their own little organizations. And each one of those organizations has an overhead. So in the 6th line, we come to attraction, the power of revolution in action to expand its support. An innate impressionability that transforms the fence sitter into the committed, the sensibility and potential to embrace and transform others. Well, the 6th line is so aloof. It is, it's way up on the roof. It's just, it wants to be the role model. It wants to take all of the understanding that it got from the popular discontent, and it wants to, really expand the support for the tribe, because really at the fundamental level, that's what the tribe is all about, is support. So the 6th line's always looking out for the whole thing. And how do we expand support? We have the right people taking care of our families. We have the right people in the right jobs. We have the right people with the right skills doing the right thing. We have the correct goals. We have the right bargains so that everybody can have the resources. So when you look at this energy and you play around with it in your body graph, just watch it. If you have it, just see how your sensitivity, understand your fuel for resources, understand your, awareness for, food discrimination, and really saying who gets what gets where. Understanding, there has to be a necessity. So play around with these energies, and if this isn't you, or you don't have any of this, but you know people, watch them. Watch how they, watch how they are in public. Watch how they are with other people. Watch how needy they get. It's just an interesting thing. We just got to witness. All right, then we're going to move on to the 3740 and then up to the 2145.